Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on unlocking the power of the Cognitive Contact Center. Last month, if you were participated with us, we presented an overview of the Cognitive Contact Center. And so today's session is second to that, where we'll get into how to really start the journey into creating a contact center that really leverages the power of IBM Watson and Blueworx IVR. Our session today will include a couple live demos in order to give you some good visibility into how easy it is to build these applications and really start the process. Our speakers today are Dean Upton, Director of Strategic Consulting from Blueworx, as well as Julia Nash, IBM Watson System Engineering, and Mike Mert, part of the Conversational Speech Solutions for Watson. So today, if you have questions, please enter any questions into the Q&A box on your screen, and we will do a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation to answer some of those questions. Well, today is going to be recorded, just as the first one was, and we'll be sending that link out in the next 24 to 48 hours in an email, so please be on the lookout for that as well. Today we're going to cover a couple of things. Excuse me, understanding the Cognitive Contact Center, so a little bit of a refresh of what we talked about last month, as well as kind of talking through a phased approach to building out that Cognitive Contact Center with the technologies. And then really building out a contact center with success. And so what does that look like? And that's why we're going to go through a couple demos to really give you insight into how that process starts. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dean Upton.
Thank you, Kimberly. So first of all, thank you for spending the time to be with us today. I'd like to start with a recap of a few points from the first webinar we had last month. We started with the phrase, to drive customer loyalty, you must invest in customer experience. Let's take Coca-Cola Company as an example. They wanted to create a more emotional connection with customers by centering activities on the topics that their customers are passionate about. And by using multimodal interactive technology, their reward program that they called My Coke Rewards registered over 11 million loyal customers. So at each time a customer calls a contact center, we are creating a brand impression. So 10,000 calls a day is 10,000 brand impressions a day. So we should seek to create for customers a warmer, more engaging, and emotionally rich experience to drive loyalty. So the Cognitive Contact Center aims to make 1 of a million customers feel like they are the only customer. And it does this in several ways. So for example, by consolidating and using disparate data and making them work together, we can gain an insight to the customer and personalize the experience in a way that would only be possible if we actually knew them. And secondly, by understanding the customer and accurately establishing the reason they're calling, we can more quickly give them what they need. And by learning from each interaction, we can continuously improve that experience. The third reason is what we're going to talk about today, and that's making the interaction warmer. So why are we investing in voice in the age of smartphones? I asked Julie Ask, who's the Vice President in Forrester Research, will a voice automated agent be increasingly or decreasingly important in the future? And she answered, voice will be increasingly important. More interfaces will not have a screen. Consider Amazon Echo, Google Home, in-car assistants. She said, voice is more intuitive. It's easier to express yourself using voice. It's more natural. But one of the appeals of using of smartphone and web interfaces is that they can be heavily automated, and there are significant savings possible. Voice is more difficult to automate without damaging that customer experience. However, cognitive services can help to automate contact centers while improving the experience. You can gradually add cognitive services to increase automation at your own pace and to a level of automation that you're comfortable with. An established contact center can be the cornerstone for customer support, so it's really understandable that a rip and replace is undesirable. And while Blueworx technology is proven and established, cognitive applications are still relatively new. And also there are some applications that lend themselves more towards a directed dialogue, such as credit card transactions. And so a hybrid can be desirable. There are two aspects to an IVR application that can benefit from cognitive services like those from Watson. The first could be called cognitive conversation, if you like, improving the dialogue, the flow, and the quality of the spoken interaction. And then the second is cognitive information. That's intelligently using unstructured data from a wide range of sources to provide the customer with what they need quickly and easily. So improving the conversation has an immediate impact, and it's relatively easy to implement. So these are perhaps the first steps towards a cognitive contact center. So for the rest of this webinar, we're going to focus just on the first two levels of the contact center autonomy, those focused on cognitive conversation. And we'll come back to cognitive information in a later webinar. So at this stage, I'm going to ask Mike Mert, who's an IBM architect, to show us an example of what we can achieve with cognitive conversation by using Watson Conversation with Blueworx. Mike, I'd like to hand over to you.
Okay, great, Dean. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Volume's good. What we're going to show here is a demo going through Blueworx IVR. The IVR is using Watson ASR and TTS services for speech. We'll be utilizing a natural language interface, so we'll be using a full language model. The content that's recognized as we speak is going to be then shared with Watson Conversation for the cognitive backend, and Watson Conversation will drive the interaction with the caller. And the premise of the demo is it's for an insurance POC that we put together. It's for someone that's holding a life insurance policy that is going to go delinquent in payments, and they've notified them to call in and have the problem resolved.
Thank you for contacting Liberty Mutual. My name is Watson. To better assist you, who am I speaking with?
This is Michael.
I'm sorry, I did not understand your name. Please tell me your name.
This is Michael.
Michael, it's very nice to speak with you. How can I help you?
You guys sent me a cancellation notice in the mail.
Using the phone number you called from, I see that we sent you a letter about a life insurance policy on June 2nd of this year. Due to non-payment, that life insurance policy will be canceled August 1st. Does that sound like the letter you received?
Yeah, that's the one I got.
As of this moment, we do not show any payment posted to your account. Have you made a payment?
No, not recently.
Would you like to cancel or renew the policy?
I'd like to renew the policy.
One moment while I check your options. I reviewed your history, and this life insurance policy has been active for the past 5 years with no prior incident of cancellation for non-payment. We can reinstate this policy without lapse for a payment of $250. Would you like to make this payment over the phone today?
Sure, if I can use my American Express.
Great. I can help you with the payment. When you're ready, please tell me your credit card number.
9029-7218-1357-4123.
Let me verify. Your credit card number is 902-972-181-3574123. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Please tell me the credit card expiration date.
August 2020.
That was August 2020. Hold on while we process your payment. Your payment is complete, and the policy will remain active. Can I help with anything else today?
No, I'm all set. Thanks very much.
We appreciate you being a Liberty Mutual customer. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Okay. All right. So that was an end-to-end interaction using natural language and cognitive to process a caller's request, which depended on no agent time or interactions. Back to you, Dean.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mike. And just a quick caveat as well that both of the demos that we're demoing in this webinar are only running on development hardware, so the performance is a little slower than you might expect from a real production system. Okay, thanks, Mike.
Sure.
An easy first step towards the Cognitive Contact Center is to use a more capable speech engine for recognition and text-to-speech. Blueworx has worked with many open standard MRCP compliant TTS or speech recognition engines for many years. But some customers may wish to update their speech engine. And Watson provides bleeding-edge speech technology with a pay-as-you-go licensing model, and that can reduce costs considerably for some customers. However, Watson has its own speech APIs rather than MRCP. Blueworx have worked closely with IBM, who have developed an MRCP gateway to Watson speech services, and this can bring the benefits of Watson speech to your Blueworx IVR today. In this diagram on display at the moment, we've simply swapped the existing speech engines used by Blueworx for Watson speech using the MRCP connector. The next level of autonomy can come from migrating from mere speech to automated conversation. The development of directed dialogue applications uses languages such as state tables, voice XML, and there are tools available that can make it easier to write the applications that generate that voice XML, but writing conversation applications requires a different approach. IBM Watson provides a web-based tool for writing and driving conversation applications, appropriately called Watson Conversation. And this allows you to easily develop an automated assistant, a bot. Yet Watson also goes one step further and provides a set of ready-made tasks in a service called Watson Virtual Agent. Now, Watson's brain, just like our own, I guess, learns and problem solves. And in the case of Watson's virtual assistant, some common tasks are already learned out of the box, so we aren't burdened with learning how to write smart Watson conversations for those common tasks. So in a moment, I'll introduce Julia Nash, an IBM engineer, who will show you a help desk chat using Watson Virtual Agent and the tool that she used to create it. At this stage, I should say that both Watson Conversation and Watson Virtual Agent are entirely text-based, and some people would much rather call the help desk. But we can voice enable these bots using Blueworx with Watson Speech, so you can use the same learning, the same conversation, and call into the help desk. So after Julia's demo, I'll ask Mike Mert again to explain how he used Blueworx to voice enable Watson Virtual Agent and give us a live demo. So in this diagram, you can see how we've replaced just the voice XML application server with this Watson Conversation connector. And this is allowing us to use Watson Conversation for all of the application logic. So to achieve the complete solution, we have IBM Watson Virtual Agent with IBM Watson Speech, Blueworx, and that gives you an omni-channel virtual agent. quickly and easily. So Watson Virtual Agent. The value in virtual agents is in saving time by reusing the same conversation and not having to train developers to learn Watson Cognitive Services. And even the setup is fast and efficient. So I would like to introduce Julia Nash from IBM. Julia, could you give us a demo of a text bot using Watson Virtual Agent and show us the tool that you used to create it?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Let me share my screen. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
I can.
Great.
Yep, it's showing up great on mine.
All right. Let me also do this. So, hi, I'm Julia, and I made a little demo today of Watson Virtual Agent. I will be asking 3 questions to this virtual agent. Then Mike will show you the added capabilities in terms of speech services in regards to these questions I ask. So in this, today, this is showing the end product of using Watson Virtual Agent in total. So after this, we can actually dive into how to construct this as well. My first question comes from the technical documentation of Blueworx, actually. Let me scroll down here. So I asked what are the benefits of voice applications, and it shows how voice applications are on all the time without restrictions, the 9 to 5 of an average worker, and this also can free up agents by addressing those simplistic inquiries with the chatbot to then strengthen call resolution. So, okay. My next question comes from Blueworx, the FAQs on the website. And the answer to is Blueworx a new company? Blueworx is a new subsidiary of an older, more established company called Waterfield. So my final question today, who can I call for support? And like we see, there's a text response from Watson Virtual Agent addressing, if you have a pre-existing ELA, you can still contact Blueworx, and if you have one, then you should go based on that ELA already given. So, alrighty, so that's my little demo for today. And Mike, did you want to do the call-in and show these questions?
Sure. Yeah. So similar to the previous demo, we were able to have a transformation layer into Watson Conversation. We've also taken the same concept and we've developed a transformation layer using an IVR into WVA to interact with a bot. And what we'll show here is by using the phone and asking similar questions that Julia just asked, you can have the same content delivered over a phone that you could see in the chat.
Hi, my name is Watson. I'm here to help with any questions you have about Blueworx. How can I help you today?
What are the benefits of a voice application?
A few benefits of voice applications are that they offer your services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Also, your business can tackle simple inquiries where an agent might not be needed, which frees your agent to deal with more complicated inquiries. Is there anything else I can help with today?
Is Blueworx a new company?
Great question. Blueworx is a new subsidiary of the Waterfield family of businesses. Our parent company was originally founded in 1920 with a focus on providing global financial services. Do you have any other questions today?
Who do I call for support?
If you don't have a pre-existing ELA, you can contact Blueworx directly for support, sales, and billing questions. ELA customers will need to follow their existing process for receiving technical support. Would you have any other questions to ask today?
No, I'm all done.
Thanks for contacting Blueworx. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. So that was a natural language interaction using Watson Speech and interacting with Watson Virtual Agent to drive the interaction with the caller.
Thanks, Mike.
That's awesome, Mike. If Julia, if you would show us how you created that application, and then we'll skip back to Mike afterwards, and he can show us what's behind voice enabling it, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so this is Watson Virtual Agent, the back end of it. This is the home page. It shows you the exact steps to follow in the making of your chatbot. So you have, the different steps of configure, so the different ways a person can say questions to your bot over different subjects and configuring that. You can test it by a toggleable test bot, which I will show you. You can publish it then on your website, and I can show you that section as well of what you would have to embed into your HTML, and also the widget you can fork from GitHub repository to have the code for that widget. And then the metrics, so those are the analytics of how people are interacting with the bot. So let's go in order here. Let me go to configure. So this configure section shows all 105 different ways a person could ask something to this to your virtual agent. So no coding is required here. You simply turn a intent or question on or off. So let me show you. All right. So okay, let's back up. So what is an intent? An intent would be me asking the bot. Let me show. Preview. All right, so you can probably already see it here. I don't know if you can see my screen. Okay. So this, I want to report a fraud, would be an intent. So I'm asking that to the virtual agent, and it's giving me a response. So you have 105 of these. The core capabilities right here, so this is core capabilities, are those 105 different intents. So that you as a user don't have to go in and make these yourself. But they are finite. Like I said, there's a lot, but what if you have a very particular question you must ask, or questions you must ask that are not one of these 105 intents? So that is what custom capabilities are. Custom capabilities are used to allow you to expand what can be asked to your chatbot. So that would be utilizing what Dean was saying earlier, the Watson Conversation REST API service. But before I show you that, the custom capability, let me go into intent here and show you what's inside. Okay. So this is a module showing you ways you can form your chatbot to respond to something being said to it. In this case, the user said something like, I want to find general information about Blueworx today. We can then set up the response to that question. So let me show you. There's 3 different responses. So you can use your own conversation, which would be linked to this custom capability. So let's click on that, if I can. All right, here we go. So you see here, I would have to link a workspace from the Watson Conversation service in order to then utilize this customization. Thankfully, we have this in the interface, so you can link a workspace within this Watson Virtual Agent, and you don't have to skip over to a different service in order to do this process. So let's go to this one. This is if you wanted to configure, say, a user wanted a different payment plan, and the bot couldn't handle that give and take in the conversation to customizing a payment plan. So you could have the user say, I want to talk to a live agent, and that would either go to, it could go to Slack, it could go to any messaging channel or channel of correspondence with that live agent. So that's what transfer to human agent would be. And display a text response would be utilizing what I showed you within the demo, basically, is giving you a simple response. So not a dialogue flow, but just a simple response back to the user over a particular question. Okay. Let me turn that off. That's all you have to do for that. All right, so let's go to the next section now. That would be engagement metrics. So like I said earlier, these are the analytics of how people are interacting with the bot. So this chart you're seeing right now shows the top things asked and the subject of what was asked about here. So these are the intents and entities. It gives you number of interactions, total unique users, number of escalations, and average duration of those chats. So that's really long for some reason, but yeah. And this dashboard is updated every 30 minutes. So let's go into one. It wasn't being nice to me earlier, but there we go. Okay, so per this question, so intent is a question. This was an intent about troubleshooting. So somebody came to the bot and said, hey, I need help in troubleshooting my blank. This would be a kind of dynamic dashboard and seeing, how many conversations, how many unique users came for this particular need, the average duration of those interactions. And for this, it was 131 minutes, so that's a really long time. And the average utterances, so the back and forth per the user. So if I ask a question, that would be one utterance, and so on. All right. So let's keep going here. All right, topics. This shows the most frequently used words and interactions with the agent. So this could be any word, really. It shows you what people are talking about by keyword. So you don't have to do that in machine learning. You can just go to this dashboard and see what the topics were. All right. Interactions. This shows the total number of interactions that users had with your agent. So the usage of the chatbot resulting in questions being asked, or for example, any intent or entity being hit in a conversation is how that technically is. And then escalation. So since this hasn't needed to be escalated per a conversation flow in my actual application in which I have the bot that you saw earlier, if I would have said within that conversation flow, I need to talk to a live agent and it hit, one of the messaging channels, if I had set up that webhook, you would be able to see those, this would populate with all those escalations. All right. Now let's go to the next section. So this is a very early chatbot. I think if you saw my data, this was made like 4 days ago. So there haven't been many locations that's populated yet. Right, so let's keep going here. But that map would populate with all of the people that are utilizing your chatbot on a map. So you would be able to see exactly where your customer base is. And this is the unique users. So like you see, this is when it started and started actually utilizing my chatbot. So that just shows the unique users. Okay. And like you can see here, you can look per the past day up to the past quarter. So that's useful. Okay, so interactions tab. This shows all conversations between a user and the virtual agent that you can narrow down and search by the intent, the entity, as well as the date and location. So up here, I read all of this. So you can write in an intent and search for it here, and it'll narrow this down. So these are per the terms of conversation. So right here, I had 5 different utterances here, and it just shows that entire conversation flow. This is exportable in Excel and CSV as well. So that's useful. All right, let's go to the documentation now. Okay, so this gives you an overview of vocabulary terms, links to the virtual agent documentation. Let me show you that. So it goes over what the conversation service is. You might have been wondering. That's another API, and I can show you that in a little bit, just briefly. Let me move down here. This is where the product documentation is. So in case you just were flummoxed by something and needed to find the docs, remember you can go back to the documentation and scroll down and find this link, and it'll take you straight to it. Or if you had a question, DW Answers has actually a bunch of different experts, including myself, that get pinged whenever certain topics are tagged. And so you can have direct correspondence with a IBM expert over whatever you need help with. So very useful. Okay, this is the most interesting part. So this is the Publish tab. This shows you how to set up your chatbot within your HTML file and whatnot in order to use the service and have a quit chat widget implemented. So let me show you this. So the steps are pretty much, done this a few times. So you would need this part of the code here. So if you see this, let me make my window a little bigger. Okay, so this is what you need to include into your HTML. As you can see here, you'll need your client ID and your client secret. So let me show you that, but that's what you would put in there. So you already have your bot ID in here, and let me show you where to find that. That would be right here in this link. So if you access this link, it'll have you go to your dashboard here. You click My APIs, go down to Watson Virtual Agent, and you can find your keys right here. Okay. So I would also, per this Publish tab, I would like to show you the GitHub for a chat widget, since this is extremely important for implementation as well. So if I could, this is the GitHub repository for the chat widget that you can clone or download here, and then it gives you a zip file, or I think it's tar too, tarball. And then you can start working and implementing your own chat widget, working with what you have here with this code right here. So that's what you need in order to set up your own chat widget is GitHub, Watson Virtual Agent, sorry, download that chat widget code, and then place your keys that you find here and embed that within the HTML file of that document. Then you have your own chat widget up and running. So just to briefly address the custom capabilities, I really wanted to show you this because it's really cool. So this is my own Blueworx account. So what I just did was link workspace. That's pretty much hitting this service within Blueworx here. So conversation service in Blueworx. I instantiated the service, and then I had a bunch of, they're called workspaces, and that is within this conversation service. It gives you a GUI, graphical user interface to have different conversations in which you can customize your own intent, your own entities, which remember is the subject of what people are talking about to your chatbot, as well as form an entire dialogue flow, as you heard within Mike's previous demo, where he had an exchange with the chatbot over the phone. So this is where you can customize that to your liking. So I really like security, so I'm going to add that to here. I don't know how much time I have, but I hope this is okay. So as you can see, I added this workspace. So I can add now capabilities per this workspace. So I select workspace, and now in addition to what I have within my core capabilities, I can now come here and what is eSurf? All right. And have information about info security, just like that. And these intents and entities that I populate per this workspace that I added for these custom capabilities in addition to these core capabilities, those are populated within that the engagement metrics dashboard that I showed to you previously as well. So all of that is picked up within that engagement metrics dashboard. So that is my demo for today. If you have any questions, please enter them in the question box on your screen, and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. So thank you, and I will turn this back to Dean now.
Julia, that's awesome. Thanks so much for showing us the interface, and what a great result from that. And so really at this point, I'd like to ask Mike if you could explain the architecture behind how he took the bot that Julia had designed and voice enabled it. Mike, I put your architecture slide up.
Yep, I can see it here. Yeah, so this what this depicts is there's three sessions. There's a VoIP tier, which is your incoming call and your gateway, delivering your voice your VoIP call to the browser, which is in the IVR tier, and then in a typical IVR configuration, you've got your application server where you deploy your apps to, and then our third column is the Watson tier, and that gives us access to where all the cognitive is, whether it's TTS or ASR. Tone analyzer, natural language classifier, virtual agent as well, and conversation, which you've seen a few demos today. So with both of the demos, the one that was earlier for conversation and for the chatbot interaction with what Julia had put together, a call arrives in through the VoIP tier, so incoming call gets delivered to the IVR. The IVR, as it typically does, communicates with the application server, which is where, using the IVR tooling, we created a transformation layer. This transformation layer, depending on how you've configured it, will communicate either with WVA or conversation. It'll work with both. And based on that conversation, it establishes a dialogue or a conversation, depending on the service you use. So once that's established, then the cognitive takes over, and it then responds back to the application server and back to the browser, instructing the browser what to play to the caller. And at that point, the browser, using the MRCP 2.0 server, which is an asset we developed to fit into the standard IVR infrastructure, which supports MRCP version 2 protocol. It acts just like any ASR TTS interface, but what this server does is it takes your MRCP traffic and converts it and transfers it into Watson ASR TTS. So as the conversation instructs the browser to do a playback to the caller, the browser uses Watson speech, and speech then streams down, synthesized speech streams down to the caller. The caller responds. Again, the browser goes through the MRCP2 server, and recognition results come back. Then the browser delivers back up through the app server to the established conversation with WVA or conversation directly, depending on what you're using. And the cognitive is driven by, the interaction with the caller is driven by Watson now. So what used to be in your kind of typical directed dialogue now gives you the ability to not only have your existing directed dialogue applications, your existing speech applications, but now you can add in cognitive NLU and support all three in the same environment. And along with the MRCP version 2 server, it exposes a couple flavors of recognition. You can run purely against a full language model, which is not domain specific, so you can ask free-form questions. If you happen to have a specific domain, you can customize that language model to be for your domain, such as medical, financial, technical support. And what we're currently integrating, testing now, is a third option, which will Watson will also be supporting grammars. So now you'll have a full-scale service from natural language all the way down to grammars in your existing IVR space. So as this interaction is going back and forth, all the cognitive decisions are made by Watson and drives what's interactive with the caller. In addition to conversation and WVA, you can also use the payload exchange between the app server and cognitive to instruct the IVR to do existing CTI activities, such as attach data, attach report data, request a route point, transfer to a particular service. So it gives you the ability to drive not only your conversation with the client through WVA or conversation, it gives you the ability for cognitive to also drive how your CTI behaves, which is a very nice feature, makes it very powerful. And some secondary options which you have, as well as conversation and WVA interactions, you can also interface with Tone Analyzer. So if someone calls in and you want to filter what they've spoken through Tone Analyzer, it'll report back to you kind of the mood of the person. So if someone appears to be very angry, you can get them to an agent quicker. Maybe keeping them in kind of a automated back and forth exchange isn't the best solution for them. Or you detect someone's relatively happy, then you can keep them in the IVR to satisfy them. Another nice feature is natural language classifier. That's where you have people calling in about a wide scope of topics. You're really not sure what they're calling about. They could be calling about travel, medical, financial, getting directions. So the initial request from the caller of, how can I help you today, you can send that initial response into natural language classifier, and that will determine kind of the domain or topic that the person's calling about, and then you can invoke that particular conversation to support the caller interaction. But one of the strongest features is by introducing our MRCP asset and exposing Watson cognitive speech, we've taken a standard IVR infrastructure and raised it up to new technology with natural language interface and understanding while maintaining your current environment of applications. So it's a nice, easy transition out of directed dialogue into natural language. So, the last point I'd like to make is if you look at step 1, that showed the interface from the phone call coming in and directing through the app server to WVA. And step 8, you can see that would be Julia's chatbot that's interfacing to the same Watson virtual agent. So this gives you the understanding that both from a telephony interface and from a chatbot interface, we utilize the same WVA instance talking to the same bot to retrieve the same information. So it's a write once, use multiple times in channels. So it's a very powerful feature. And I think those are about the highlights of this particular interaction here that shows the end-to-end processing. So.
Mike, thank you. There are so many possibilities there for transforming the experience, and it's such a neat architecture. Thanks, Mike.
Yes. My pleasure.
So just to recap, we've created a live virtual agent with free-form conversation and fluid speech over a phone call or text. We can then dive into the analytics that are automatically generated to see how we can learn from and improve our interactions. So already we've started to build an autonomous cognitive contact center, and next time we will start looking at how we can improve the experience further. Julia, Mike, thanks so much for showing us your cool demos with Blueworx. Really appreciate it. And at this stage, Kimberly, I'll hand it back to you for any questions.
Okay, great. I have a couple questions here. How long does it take to install and start using WVA?
I can take that. It takes around 3 to 5 minutes to from the time that you sign up for the service, which is a free 30-day trial, to actually being able to launch the service. It takes around probably 1 to 5 minutes, I would say, sometimes seconds. I've done it a few times now, over 10 times, so that would be my rough estimate.
Okay, great. And so how, I think you mentioned kind of how to do that very quickly. So how can we try out Watson Agent and Speech ourselves? You kind of alluded to that a little bit, but where would they go to take advantage of that from a test perspective?
Yeah, definitely. If you go, we have the home page. I probably should have shown the home page for Watson Virtual Agent, but if you just Google it, it'll be the first results on Google, Watson Virtual Agent. And then you can just click try free trial, and then you can start.
Excellent. Another question here is, we are using Nuance today for speech, so how do we make the switch?
I can cover that one for you. If you're using Nuance today, the way we've architected the MRCP server, you just stand up that single server on-prem near your IVR, and you change the configuration of your IVR to point at that server. And since we support the version 2 protocol, MRCP, that's the only configuration change you need, and your applications can immediately start using Watson speech as opposed to Nuance.
And just to add to that, Mike, obviously if you're using the Blueworx cloud solution, then we would put that connector in for you. So you can use it either on your own premises or in the cloud.
Correct, yes. It can be on-prem or in the cloud.
Okay, great. There were a couple questions regarding just the recording of the webinar. So if you were arrived a little bit late, this webinar has been recorded, and we will send that out to you via email with a link in the next 24 to 48 hours. So please be on the lookout for that. And I want to thank all of our presenters and for being with us today. Thank you for joining, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.